Hey everyone, this is just a quick video tutorial on TrooperTalk. I wanted to go over a couple of the settings in the app that people have asked about, as well as to show off some of the new features in our newest version, 2.7. So if you've never used TrooperTalk before, it's very simple. It's a iOS-based real-time voice simulator that's sort of specifically targeted around emulating stormtrooper voices, as well as some other common characters in the Star Wars universe. If you're watching this video, you might own TrooperTalk and you might be kind of curious about a particular setting or how something works, or maybe you're having an issue of some kind. I want to say right away, if you have any problems, if you need help or feedback, or if you just need some troubleshooting, I would highly recommend that you come over to Facebook and join the TrooperTalk group. It's a great community, a lot of users there, a lot of questions being asked, a lot of people around to help, and that's going to be your best place to get some assistance if you need it. And having said that, let's just jump into a couple of the settings that are kind of the most interesting, or maybe the least obvious in how they work. I don't want to go through the whole app. A lot of it is very simple and straightforward. And at any point when you're using the app, you can always hit this info button next to any of the sliders, and you'll get a nice description of what that component does. So having said that, let's just start with our newest features in version 2.7. One of the coolest ones is high quality mode, and that is activated using this button here. And what high quality mode does is it basically doubles the amount of voice samples that you get during your voice processing. So you're going to get cleaner voice simulation, it's going to be higher quality, and it's going to pick up on more nuance in your speech as it's sampling more often, more frequently. It does use a little bit more battery, but depending on your situation, it might be worth it to use that. And of course you can toggle it on and off just using that button. One of the other settings I want to go over is the voice cutoff delay, and which in a lot of ways is also linked to our static burst delay. And these settings are basically how long the app is going to wait once it doesn't hear you talking anymore to go ahead and mute your microphone. Now the app intelligently mutes and unmutes your microphone dynamically in real time. So when it detects you talking, it's going to unmute, it's going to play, it's going to project your speech, and when it doesn't hear you anymore, it's going to go ahead and mute your microphone. So the voice cutoff delay is just going to tell the app how long after you think I'm done talking do you want to wait before you go ahead and mute that microphone. This can be really helpful if you feel like the ends of your words are getting cut short, or if you're if your voice is getting softer or quieter towards the end of your speech, and the app is cutting that out, you can increase that voice cutoff delay to just help make sure that it captures those last moments. Now, like I said, it is linked to your static burst delay because that can be set independently for how long after you stop talking do you want your static burst to play. So if you're doing a character like a stormtrooper that has a sort of distinct click or some kind of static burst after you speak, you can set a separate delay for how long it takes for that static burst to play. And they are linked in that if you start to increase your cutoff delay, you're going to see the value change in your static burst delay, right? Because you can't be lower, your static burst can't be lower than your voice cutoff delay because it has to wait for you to finish. So just kind of keep that in mind as you adjust those. You may need to come back and readjust your static burst delay to get that where you like it. Next is our static burst types, and you can toggle through the 11 different static bursts, including a random, which is kind of cool. So every time you talk, it'll pick one of the 11 at random to play. You can actually click the button as well, and that will play whatever sound you're on, so that you can preview it and hear which one you like the best. You also have a toggle here to just go ahead and enable it or disable it completely. Next, let's go over our voice volume threshold. This is another interesting feature. It's basically telling the app how sensitive you'd like it to be to your voice volume. So if you are a soft talker, or maybe you have more bass in your voice, or you have a deeper voice, you might want to adjust this to get the microphone to activate when it's desired and not activate when you don't want it to. So if you find that the app is kind of triggering at random, or it's picking up on breathing sounds or coughs or little subtle mouth sounds or things like that, you can just raise your voice volume threshold, and that will require more volume to trigger the microphone. You can also turn it all the way down to completely disable it if you just want your voice to be constantly processing and to transmit all the sounds you make. Next, we get down into our actual sort of voice effect options. These are the things that are going to actually change the sound of the voice and the voice emulation. The static amount is the amount of sort of static noise that's added on top of your speech. This is kind of like akin to turning on a radio at a very low level, just that kind of static noise, maybe from like an old radio. Next, below that, we have our low pass and high pass. Those are going to be what helps you create the tone of the voice you want. So how rich is it? How thin does it sound? Do you want it to sound very tinny, or do you want it to sound more high pitched or low pitched? Your low pass and high pass filters are going to be what helps you achieve that, as well as turning them off entirely, like a lot of these settings, using a toggle switch on the left. Again, like I said, you can always tap into the info buttons on the right side to see a little bit more specifically how making a change in any of these settings is going to affect the sound. Below that, we have our radio distortion. Like it says, it's going to be a distortion filter that's added to your voice. So the more you add, the more kind of grungy, dirty, distorted that voice emulation is going to be. Compression is also an interesting effect. That's going to essentially, literally compress the voice sound. And if you wanted to create a really kind of telephony sounding, thin, compressed sound, voice sound, you can increase your compression, and you can play with that to get the desired effect. Below that is your voice pitch. Voice pitch is something I'm still working on and trying to perfect. It's not perfect. It doesn't have the kind of broad range of playback that I would like it to have. Hopefully, my hope is that in a future version of TrooperTalk, I can have the voice pitch be a lot more powerful, so that you really can change the range of your voice, the tonality, the deepness, the lightness of your voice, using voice pitch, and have it still sound really good. The problem that happens is voice pitch is sort of directly linked to time in terms of samples, audio samples. So as you decrease your voice pitch, it has a tendency to create a slowing of the voice as well. Inversely, as you get higher, it can tend to speed up the voice, and it just doesn't sound fantastic. But I will say, within a couple of points either direction, up or down, you can get a nice effect that can complement any of your voice profiles. And it's used in a few of the presets, such as Darth Vader, Death Trooper, C-3PO, and a couple others. But just be really careful with this setting. A really, really small adjustment will have a big effect. So yeah, if you don't need to use it, just leave it at 1, and that'll just maintain your normal pitch. And then finally is the echo delay. That's sort of like it sounds. It's going to give you an echo effect. Like voice pitch, use it very sparingly. Really, small adjustments will make a big difference. And it's one of those less is more kind of things. Again, like voice pitch as well, I do want to improve echo in the future to make it a little higher quality and a little bit more versatile than it is right now. So those are the main settings in terms of making adjustments to your voice processing. Let's quickly talk about profiles. So any profile that you have, such as the Stormtrooper profile that we have loaded right now, we can make a change to it, and any change we make obviously can be saved. We can create a new profile. You can name it, whatever you'd like. Let's call this one test, and save, and we'll see it there. Now, we do have 8 profiles that can be saved right now, which in my opinion is enough. If you think there should be more, please let me know. That could be something that we work on in a future version. And anytime you want, you can recall that profile. Let's say you've changed, and you've loaded a default profile. At any time you can come in and reload that test profile, and you'll come back to what you had saved. The only things that aren't saved in a voice profile currently are whether or not you're using high quality mode, as well as if it's a voice activated character, whether or not you're using timed triggering, and we'll talk about that in a second. You can also save over profiles. So if you wanted to change something, say, but still use your same profile, you can just save it. It'll ask you if you want to overwrite it. Click yes, and you now have that new saved profile. Deleting is obviously as simple as just hitting the X, and it'll ask if you want to erase it. Yes, we do, and there you go. Next is load character. This is our presets, and the top section here are going to be all of our standard voice presets. These are going to be emulator presets. When we scroll down, we get a list of voice-activated characters, and these are actually pre-recorded loops that are going to be played and are going to be triggered by your voice. So it won't be your speech or your talking that's actually transmitted. It'll be a pre-recorded audio file. But what's cool is it is mic activated, and so when you play one of these, you're going to get the control to have it trigger when you want it to trigger using your voice, as well as the volume and all the other settings. Let's go ahead and choose one of these. So let's choose Chewbacca, and you're going to see right away that a new button has appeared to the right of Start Voice, and that is going to bring up our play character intervals options. And what's really cool about this is it gives you more customization for how these are played. Of course, the default is that when you start your voice processing, every time you speak into the mic or you make a sound, it's going to pick up on that and it's going to play one of the loop files. It's going to randomly pick one of 20 or so different random loops from each character to play, from your chosen character to play. And this menu here is going to give you an extra option to play the character voices at a certain time interval. So if we were to enable this, you're going to see a minimum time and a maximum time. And basically what this will do is every cycle between your minimum and your maximum time, it will play a random loop from your character. So this is kind of cool if you don't want to necessarily have to wear a microphone inside your costume, but you want to still have some voice emulation happening, or you want to have some voice acting happening. And so that's a really cool option to just kind of have a passive voice processing happening, voice playback, I guess. And then the extra step here, trigger with mic, is going to give you an added effect, which is to not only have your characters playing at intervals, but also have them still be triggered with your microphone. So if you have this enabled and you have trigger with mic disabled, it won't use the microphone to trigger them. It'll just be a passive time activated cycle. If you turn on trigger with mic, you'll have both the time activated loops as well as the ability to override that by using your microphone to trigger them whenever you want, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Lastly, at the bottom, we have our undo button here. So any change you make, let's say say you change that threshold and you want to undo it, it's going to show you at the top that you've undone that. It's going to show you what it reverted back to. As well, we have a Bluetooth button. This is essentially an info button for how to use Bluetooth speakers in the app. We are still working on support for Bluetooth microphones, and so keep an eye in the future for that. I'm hoping to get that implemented, but for right now, it's Bluetooth speakers only. Lastly, little info button, just to give you some support in terms of the Facebook group, link to the YouTube channel that you're watching now, as well as some credit for myself and Daniel Carlton, who created the background loops. So that's going to be it, guys. If you have any questions, or if there's anything I didn't cover, or confusion, or anything like that, like I said, jump on over to the Facebook group, TrooperTalk on Facebook. Happy to answer any questions. That's going to be the fastest way to get a hold of me or other members of the TrooperTalk community. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really hope you love the app. And it's going on 4 years now of development on the app and support. And so I love the community. I love being part of it. And I love helping you guys have more fun while you're out trooping. So thanks for your time today, and take care.